Now, another member of the UK delegation is Marla Tribich, who is a Holocaust survivor who will be at Auschwitz and who joins me now. And indeed, you can read extensive interviews with Marla Tribich in papers such as the Daily Mail and the Daily Express. If you wanted to give one message to the people who are listening now about what they must take from today's events, what message would that be? Good morning to you.
Not to forget what happened and be vigilant and stand up for people who are being persecuted, and generally just have a good heart towards everybody, and certainly learn about the Holocaust. There's a lot to be learned from it, and I hope that everybody's read about it, and that we're just aiming for a better world.
You're an ambassador for the Holocaust Educational Trust. You regularly give talks for the Trust. How do you impart the horrors of what went on in Auschwitz in your talks?
Well, one can never really impart all of them. Some are so shocking that I do not repeat them, especially when I talk to children at schools. But I impart them as I witness them, and I just tell the children, and it's amazing how interested they are, and how many very incisive questions they ask.
Can you give me an example of some of those questions?
Well, things like, do you still believe in God? And they're just things like, how did you feel about it?
Yes.
And what was it like? And just quite ordinary and some very incisive questions, as I said.
Could I ask you, do you still believe in God?
Well, my answer is that I'm not sure. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. So I'm just sitting on the fence, so to speak. But I know that when I'm in trouble, I really pray to God. So what you can make of it, I don't know.
What sustained you? You watched people being executed, people being starved to death, whipped to death. They caught typhus. You lost your own mother, I think, and your sister. What sustained you?
I really don't know. I have to be honest. I did have a very young cousin. She was 5, and I was 12 when her father had already been killed. Her mother was taken away screaming, "Who'll look after my child?" And by then I was the only female member of the family who could do anything about that. I looked after her. I was 12 and she was 5. And to an extent, I sort of had this responsibility, and because I didn't want her to be left on her own, maybe I sort of tried a bit harder. There's so many aspects to that whole situation that I could be talking about them for hours.
This is your cousin Anne, I think you're talking about.
My cousin Anne, indeed, yes.
Okay. In all the brutality, is there an act of extraordinary kindness you remember from a fellow prisoner, or possibly even one of the camp guards? Anything strike you?
Well, I have to tell you something very unusual, and I do always mention it in my talks, because I was really saved by a German officer, because they were deporting the sort of remnants of our ghetto, and there were just some women and children and a few old men. They had no use for them at all. And the deportation was going on, and there was a German officer standing watching it. He wasn't doing anything, but he was in charge. I spotted him and I went up to him, which was very unusual. I could have been shot just, walking towards him. But I did go up and I said that I have been separated from my father and brother who were inside the ghetto. They had jobs and, they were all right for the moment. And I asked if I could go back to them. And he looked a little bit surprised and a little bit sort of amused. And he actually called over a policeman and said, take her back inside the ghetto. Now, on the way, I said, just a minute, I've got to get my cousin. And he said, you can't because she hasn't had permission. And I just went on and eventually he gave in and he said, quickly, take and go through the gates. So that was a real bit of luck because I know where the children that were in that transport, where they ended up, because there's a memorial for them in the forest, Raków forest in Poland.
They were executed, I assume, Mrs. Tribich?
Yes.
They were. Thank you for your time. Can I book speaking with you in 10 years' time when we do the 90th anniversary? Can I put you down for that, Marla?
Well, I can't imagine that.
Yes, come on.
Around,
You've beaten everything else, Marla. So I'm working out you're probably 94, 95. So we'll speak when you're 105. How does that sound?
I'm not sure. It depends on what state I'm in. But there's lots of 105-year-old people around these days.
There are. It's been a privilege to speak with you.